Hello, I'm Steve Chancellor with Second Look Training and Forensic Consulting. Welcome to another edition of A Few Minutes with Detectives. Today we're going to talk about crime scene staging, or at least give you a small portion of it. We've mentioned the concept of crime scene staging in other videos, but what we want to do is kind of give you a down and dirty explanation of what exactly are we talking about when we're talking about crime scene staging. Now, Grant and I, as part of our business, we actually go out and we give a 2-day course designed around crime scene staging. We really go into in depth. Now, one of the questions that we always ask the students when we first get started is, how many of them have had any experience dealing with a staged crime scene or have recognized a staged crime scene? And out of the class of 30 to 40, we normally get 5 or 6 hands indicating that they've had some experience with crime scene staging. And then we make a very bold statement, and that is, if you've been working as a detective for longer than 1 year, you've probably had a staged crime scene. You just may not have recognized it. Now, we recognize that is a bold, even a brash statement. But we want to emphasize that this is not necessarily a case that the detectives have missed something, because the vast majority of the times the detective knows that there's something wrong. When they go to the scene and they hear the explanation, they know that things just don't fit. But they don't recognize, or they don't understand, that what they're dealing with is a staged crime scene. Now, if you take a look at the photos depicted here, this is just an example of some of the more famous or infamous cases across the United States, probably in the last 50 years or so. Every one of these is an example of a staged crime scene or involves staging to some extent. Okay. Now, we use several of these throughout our investigative course to kind of walk you through the crime scene and other factors to point out those inconsistencies and what makes this a staged crime scene. So what is a staged crime scene, or what is crime scene staging? You know, we hear this term used all the time, but what are we really talking about? Well, what we're really talking about is scene alteration, and that is where someone has added to, removed from, or changed the general location of forensic or physical evidence within the scene to make it appear to be something that it was not. That's a simple explanation of crime scene staging. Now, based on our research and our experience, we've been able to actually categorize various examples of crime scene staging or scene alterations. We've really been able to identify 3 separate categories. That is, primary stage scene, a secondary stage scene, and a tertiary scene alteration or MO-related behaviors. And these are all categorized depending upon the motive, the general intentions, or the actions of the offender or other persons. Pretty simple. For this presentation, we're going to concentrate on primary staged scenes. That is defined as scene alteration by the offender to misdirect a police investigation away from the true facts. And generally speaking, when we talk about staged crime scene, this is generally what the police are talking about. Okay, that the offender has tried to portray a scene that something happened other than what really happened. It's important to note for a primary stage scene, there are 4 main elements that need to be present. First, that this is offender behavior, which means it's the offender that's altering the scene. That the scene has been purposefully altered. It was done with criminal intent, and the criminal intent is to mislead or misdirect the police in their investigation to make it appear that something else happened. Now, within primary staged crime scenes, there's actually 2 subtypes of primary staging. The first one is what we call ad hoc. Ad hoc simply means after the fact, and that is the staging has taken place after some other event has taken place, and now the offender, right, has to come up with some explanation to tell the authorities and hopefully not get themselves in trouble. We see this many times within domestic homicides, where the husband has killed the wife following a domestic incident. And then what does he have to do? He has to make the scene appear that something else happened in order to save himself from getting in trouble. We see this many times that they stage to look like a interrupted burglary. It may look like a sexual homicide has taken place. Or in some cases, even that the wife committed suicide. Okay. Again, something else has happened, but now they have to explain to the police and the authorities, right, that something else happened. This is what we call ad hoc or after the fact. The second subset is what we call premeditated. This is far different than the ad hoc, because as the name implies, this is premeditated, which means it's planned, which means the offender has made a special effort to make sure that they have come up with significant physical or forensic evidence, and they have a much better story. They may have even rehearsed it, and more importantly, that they, unlike the ad hoc that simply happens at the spur of the moment, that the premeditated offense is actually committed when the offender is ready. In these particular incidents, we see far more physical evidence being presented. We have a much better explanation of events because it's been planned. They may have rehearsed it. Now, either one of these subsets in primary stage scene are possible. Okay, but what we do is we spend almost a full morning going over this primary staging and show you the difference in what to look for in these various scenes. The biggest thing that we try to impart upon the detectives is that this crime scene staging is not designed to be long-term. When they stage a crime scene, it is only designed to get through that initial police viewing of the scene. What they want to do is present enough evidence or enough facts and a good enough statement to make the police believe what they're trying to show them. This is an example of what we call complacency, where the police arrive, the scene appears to look like a routine case, which we hate that word, routine case, and they accept the version of the events from the offender. Okay, so what we try to impart to all the detectives is we cannot be complacent. We have to pay attention, and every death deserves a little bit of investigation to make sure that that's what we're dealing with. Well, this concludes part 1 of crime scene staging. Thanks for spending a few minutes with detectives. Hope you got something out of it. Please see below our little logo on the right hand corner. Please click it and subscribe to our channel. If you have any comments, please leave below. We'd like to hear from you. If you have any suggestions for any future programs. There is part 2 and 3 that will be coming on various other aspects of crime scene staging. If you are a detective and you're interested in any investigative training, please take a look at our website, www.secondlooktraining.com. We'd like to hear from you. So until next time, when we share another few minutes with detectives, see ya.